Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is the Rice News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Leila.
Good morning.
Yes, let's start with this day newspaper. COVID-19. Private sector relief fund nets 15.325 billion as cases hit 174. Federal government issues guidelines, protocols on lockdown. List measures taken to combat pandemic, moves to accredit more treatment centers. Oshibajo wants more public enlightenment. Presidency not showing car for 14 restrictions. American evacuated after testing positive in Lagos. Yes, the private sector initiative put together by the central bank, I want to say championed by Aliko Dangote, because he was the first to step forward with that 2 billion naira donation that kick-started donations from other corporate entities and individuals across the country. So much coming in now. How this money or resources is being deployed is another thing we have to pay attention to. And I'm sure there are many more Nigerians and corporate bodies out there who can do well to contribute to this relief fund. But the guidelines and protocols coming very soon, just 2 days after President Buhari declared a lockdown Lagos, Ogun, and the FCT. Perhaps too soon, but recall that we said on this program when President Buhari delivered his address that certain aspects remain sketchy. Details will come later. The details are coming now. Leila, Ruben.
It wasn't the government that said certain parts are sketchy. It was critics.
No, that's what I'm saying, that we on this program said that certain aspects are still sketchy. So the details are now coming out.
Yeah, that specific details needed to be provided. And even those details that they have now provided, we have tried earlier on to interrogate those details. I do not have a problem with the government releasing 70,000 metric tons of grains from the National Grains Reserve. But again, you know, the distribution of that must be carefully monitored.
Yeah.
The cash transfers also, the process of deploying the 20,000 naira to 1 million Nigerians must also be carefully managed, because oftentimes...
Is it cash transfer or cash handout, like what we saw in Abuja?
Well, what I saw in the papers was cash handout.
But what we saw happening in Abuja
was cash handout. And I thought that...
So when are they going to hand out to Lagos, to Delta, Ogun, and other parts?
That's an antediluvian strategy that may not encourage, you know, transparency. And then, of course, about the markets. Our concern is that, look, if you ask the markets to open, where is the transportation that will take the people to the place? Yeah. The people will provide supplies for the supermarkets and the stores and the shops. How will they get there? And it is not proven that people live close to markets. Some people, you probably live like 5 hours away from the nearest market. Now, even if you manage to find your way there, because you provide essential service, you know, there may be difficulties in terms
for
of
others.
Yes, in terms of, you know, moving up and down. So those gray areas, they still need to look at again. And then you made a point about the money contributed by the private sector. Certainly, you know, the private sector in Nigeria has done a lot. Apart from the list of the 37 contributors, individuals and organizations listed by the central bank, there are also many others, companies, individuals who have contributed at the state levels, who have gone directly even to contribute to local governments. In the last 2 days, I've also seen individuals distributing food. But as for those individuals who are distributing food and relief materials, I've seen some social media, you know, videos of the process. And in fact, the effort will seem to promote COVID-19 more than alleviating the suffering of the people.
No social distancing.
Because they don't observe social distancing. People were climbing over themselves, you know, to collect relief materials. And I think while persons are meaning well, distributing rice, indomie, and other food items, they must insist on social distancing. What they do elsewhere, as we have seen in the reports, is that, you know, you create some markers on the ground, ask the people to stay away from each other, That's what they do in India. That's what we have seen in Europe.
We've seen it as some pharmacies here as well.
And then you hand over the items to them in a manner that is peaceful, in a manner that does not further endanger them while you are trying to help them.
Exactly.
As for the private sector, I think we would like to see more organizations. Every day we see a new list at various levels, and all the key players in the private sector deserve commendation. But let's note, it's not only by providing cash to the central bank or to the state governors. Many of these private sectors, as we have seen, can provide facilities.
Yes.
You know, as GT Bank did in Lagos, they can supply ventilators, as some organizations have done, because we don't have enough ventilators.
JAM has donated ventilators to the Abuja hospital for coronavirus victims.
We also heard that Innocent are also trying to work on seeing if they can also help to create some ventilators. But I would say my biggest issue with the government's response to the pain that has been caused to a lot of Lagosians and people in Ogun and the FCT over the past few days is that it's not a solution. And that's what the problem is here. I mean, you cannot have a lockdown and then have markets and supermarkets open for half the day every day. I just don't think they've provided a solution at all. I just think they've worsened the problem.
Well,
what they should have done is given people time
and see how we
I suggested
and then impose.
Example of Kaduna State, which also announced a review of the curfew that had been imposed on the state. And what that review says is that every Tuesday and Wednesday, you know, the shops, the markets will be open for a few hours. The people can go and stock up on food and other necessaries. And then the rest of the week, there will be no movement. And I think that's a very flexible.
Well, but that again can lead to rush, crowding. So we
if
need to
people
think
are out, the virus will spread. And that's the thing. That's why places are putting in total lockdowns. Look at Wuhan, 11 million people, the biggest lockdown the world has ever seen. But hey, people in Wuhan are back to work.
Yes, but Leila, people must also not starve. Otherwise,
of course,
they will
that's why
revolt.
I said that the government didn't do it right in the first place. What the Ogun State government did is what the federal government, through the presidential task force, should have suggested for the other states as well. Give people enough time to stock up, and then you impose a total lockdown, not 24 hours beforehand, when largely we run on an informal sector.
But Efeni,
also
you have been on the road,
yes,
for the better part of the lockdown. What do you think of the conduct of the security agencies? Quite a large team out on the streets. Do you think that they are observing standard procedure of engagement, or they've been a bit high-handed?
No, but in the last day one was a bit quite chaotic, because there were still many people trying to explain why they should be on the road. But by today, when I was coming, the road was also very clear, and the security agency has little to do in terms of asking people to explain why they're on the road. So as we get along, we have fewer people on the road, and the security agencies will not have much work to do also. But we must say something about the spike in figure in Nigeria, the biggest one-day jump, and the Osun State case, where Nigerians coming from Côte d'Ivoire, they got to the Ogun State border with the Republic of Benin. They were stopped, and they said they were going to their state, Osun. They got in touch, the government of Ogun got in touch with Osun State, and they said, please let them come home. But you were saying that people should stay where they are. But they are Nigerians. They want to return to their country.
They have to.
We saw other countries moving their nationals. South Africa brought 100 South Africans from Wuhan, and they are being taken care of in South Africa. We did not bother to do that.
Do we have the capacity? Do we have the infrastructure?
And that's
to be collecting
problem.
People who are
they are Nigerians.
COVID-19 patients
they are Nigerians
from all over the world and bringing them home.
Yeah, we don't.
If
and
they
that's
want to
why
come
it's so
home,
unfortunate.
But if they want to come home, you cannot stop them.
Come home.
Ask them to stay in Republic of Benin. They were already at the border with Nigeria, and they are Nigerians.
It should not be the Republic of Benin's problem to treat them. Oh, by the way, just some comedy this morning. A police officer said to me, when he stopped me, he said, I hope you're not from Italy. I said, I'm from Oyo State. I'm from Ibadan. He couldn't believe me.
Well, I don't blame that policeman for arguing.
But he was also from Oyo,
You should
so...
have accused him of stigmatizing.
And that's what I said. I said, you're stigmatizing, I'm from Ibadan. He couldn't believe me. I said, yes, he was from Ibadan as well, so...
And he should have told you, I'm Ibadan, can you so?
He did.
And you answered, I mean,
Of course.
so
Yes.
sure.
Well, if we just look at the foreign newspapers in the UK, The Guardian, virus patients more likely to die may have ventilators taken away. Yes, such is the nature, how critical the situation is in the UK. The biggest one-day jump in the UK also, 563 deaths yesterday, and that is quite alarming. Now, doctors will have to make a choice. Younger persons who look healthy, giving ventilators. Older persons, not a good time to be an old person in the UK. And you have this virus, then you are likely to be denied ventilator.
You left out one category.
Yeah.
The third category is persons who may have underlying illnesses.
conditions,
Yes.
yeah.
So those persons too. And what the UK is trying to do is to race against time.
Yeah.
Because the numbers keep increasing on a daily basis. And the biggest challenge that the UK faces even now is the testing process.
Yes.
Because they're not testing enough. And the Prime Minister has had to review his strategy. What will now happen is that private laboratories will also be engaged and deployed to assist with testing. Because as we have seen elsewhere, you know, the more testing you do, the more you are able to flatten the curve.
Like
the other
Iceland.
challenge they have in the United Kingdom is the testing of NHS staff.
Yes.
4
Thank
NHS
you.
staff have died. And out of about 1.2 million, only 2,000 of them have had access to testing.
Yeah.
You know,
And these are the people,
550.
those are the volunteers.
Yes.
The volunteers. But the total
Only
number.
2,000.
Yes, but the
tested
total
so
number
far.
is 1.2 million. And, you know, the head of the Doctors Association of the UK has had to protest that, look, more testing should also be done for persons who are risking their lives. But, you know, they are dealing with an appreciative community. Tonight, there's going to be a general applause for the frontline workers in the NHS.
They deserve
as they
more
did
than that.
last Thursday.
Mr. Efeni, thank you for the news headlines. We'll see you tomorrow.